What is going on, my 4BK family? What's happening? Tonight we have some very special guests coming on with us. We're going to be talking about the quest for ancient civilizations. All right. The quest for ancient civilizations is going to be a great talk. So let's make sure we're all tuned in, tapped in. Make sure you click the like button. All right. Make sure you click that like button. And it's going to be a great show today. Okay. I'm just setting up a couple more things real quick while my guests are getting ready to get into the studio so we can go live with everyone. All right. And it's going to be a great talk. So we're going to dig deep into some ancient civilization knowledge from living legend Randall Carlson and the amazing TV host of Ancient Aliens and co-producer, William Henry, who's been on that show for over 20 years. We're going to bring them up. It's going to be a great talk tonight. All right. And I'm going live right now from Facebook pages, Instagram, X, Twitch, of course, YouTube. So we're everywhere. We're simulcasting. So when people say, do you have a clone? Yes, I have a clone. I'm cloning myself through simulcasting, through using technology. Okay. And also, we have a great announcement tonight at the end. So make sure you hang out to the end. We have a free giveaway that we're doing. Okay, a free giveaway that we're doing tonight. And so that's going to be amazing. I didn't even expect them to give this to me to give away, but that's going to be cool. Okay, so all this is happening tonight live on the Forbidden Knowledge podcast. Okay, and so I am just setting up a couple more things and we're getting ready to pop this off. It's going to be a great talk. We're going into geology. If y'all didn't know, we're going to go into some spirituality. We're tapping into the ancient wisdom. It's going to be great. Okay. Great stuff. So that is going up in here. And I'm also dropping a link. Dropping a comment in the live chat on Instagram right now, letting you know that there is going to be a link in my bio that you'll be able to click on. And that link will take you to the live stream for next week. There's a next week live stream that's going to be happening. Okay. And I'm just getting it all set up. I'm waiting for everyone to join us here. And I'll get into something here in just 1 minute as I drop this link in. I'm going to go in and start talking about a little bit of the topic that I'll be touching on next weekend in Phoenix. So for those of you who don't know, I will be in Phoenix, Arizona. And that will be actually, technically it's Scottsdale. I'll land in Phoenix and I'll get over to Scottsdale. And that'll be the 5th, 6th, and 7th. So technically next week I will be there. It's going to be amazing. Okay. So we'll have, I think there's 12 incredible speakers. There might even be more now, but it's going to be a great conversation. Okay. And for those on X or Instagram, the link to the quest for ancient civilizations is in my bio. Okay. I just heard somebody enter into the studio. So we have one person there ready to rock and roll. And for the YouTube stream, the live stream for the quest for ancient civilization, for the live stream going to 5th, 6th, and 7th, coming up this weekend, it'll be live. I will be there along with some incredible other speakers talking about the ancient civilizations, all the new knowledge and new wisdom. And tonight we're going to have Randall Carlson. He's trying to get on the live stream right now. We do have William Henry just popped in. Okay. 1 second. So Randall's asking me a question on how to get in here. Hold on 1 second. Let me just text him back right quick. Use YouTube. Okay. All right. So that'll get him in. He's logged out of YouTube. Let me see. Facebook. Okay. So Randall's getting in right now. While we're doing that, I want to bring up a great speaker. I've been so privileged to be able to be in shows, TV shows and TV series that this man is in. I've been blessed to be on an actual episode on a 20+ year running TV series called Ancient Aliens that he co-produces and also hosts and stars in. And the man has gone now nonstop around the country hosting these live events almost virtually every weekend. And then also doing live tours with incredible people all over the world nonstop. So I'm going to bring you up right now. We're going to bring up William Henry. What's going on, William?
Hi, Billy. How you doing?
Fantastic, man. Glad to have you here.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me and for looking forward to this weekend, man. It's going to be a great time.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a great, great weekend. And we got Randall Carlson just popping in as well. So for those of you who don't know who Randall Carlson is, he's a geologist. He's a living legend. He's an amazing researcher who's traveled the world nonstop. This has been his life, dedication, his passion. He lives in his passion. He's been on Joe Rogan many times. And he's a great speaker. He's one of the lead speakers at the Quest for Ancient Civilizations, which is going to be next weekend, the 5th, 6th, and 7th. And I just dropped a link in the live chat there. And he's an amazing speaker. I can't wait to meet him again. I met him in person a few months ago. I'll bring up our other guest, Randall Carlson. What's up, Randall?
Hello, Billy.
And William. Man, you sound good.
Hi, Randall.
Hey, do I sound okay?
You sound great.
Do I look okay?
You look crisp.
Strikingly handsome as always.
Hey, man, that camera took 10 years off, man. I need to buy that camera.
I know. It's on loan. It's actually a $4,000 camera.
Wow.
That's on loan
nice.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful camera. No, I could tell you look super crisp. Yeah, this is going to be
sir.
a great talk. Yeah. So everyone, these are my great esteemed guests tonight on the Forbidden Knowledge podcast. It's an honor to have y'all on the platform right now. We're live on 3 Facebook pages, 2 YouTube accounts, a Twitch account, an X account, and Instagram, all at the same time.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yes. So we're simulcasting. We're cloned.
Ooh. I could feel the electricity in the air. I knew something was going on.
Yeah.
On a molecular level, I could feel it.
Right. So tonight, I just want to have a great conversation of topics that I feel are in each of our own, wheelhouses. And so I'll kind of start off with you, Randall, in terms of, you're a geologist, and I know you've talked about the Younger Dryas a lot. You've talked about a lot of geological activity that just doesn't seem to fit in with what mainstream says has actually happened. And so do you believe the Younger Dryas impact was a single event, or do you think it was a series of cosmic events that actually happened?
I'm definitely leaning towards the second option you just mentioned. I think that it's just too complex to be a single event. And I think that some of the critics have essentially erected an oversimplified singular event in order to try to discount the viability of some kind of a cosmic event. But I think I'm kind of one of the, there's a bit of a, controversy between Graham Hancock and Robert Schoch. Was it impact produced or was it solar? I straddle the fence and think it was actually both. And where I've been going with my research over the last, say 5 to 8 years is looking at kind of a holistic model of change that encompasses literally the galaxy, but certainly the sun and activity in the sun. And one of the interesting things that has come to light in the last 5 to 10 years, say, is the discovery and the realization that there seems to be a connection between the infall of cometary masses at high velocity into the sun and then a quite striking response from the chromosphere. And we've seen now 2 examples of hypervelocity impacts of what are called the sun-grazing comets into the sun, followed instantly by enormous coronal mass ejections. Now, if that's the case, we may be looking at a scenario where the influx of cometary masses from the outer fringes of the solar system, which now has to encompass not only the Kuiper disk of comets, but the Oort cloud zone as well. And if there is something on an even higher level, let's say perhaps a galactic core explosion, the passing of a nearby star, a supernova nearby, something that destabilizes this fragile stability of these comets in this outer zone, sends them cascading towards the sun, where they then begin to undergo this hierarchy of processes, which ultimately leads to their final disintegration as cosmic dust. But between a coherent comet nuclei and cosmic dust, there could be a number of things that happen. Of course, they create meteor streams. That's very well known. All the very well-known meteor streams, from the Leonids to the Taurids to the Draconids and so on, have comets associated with them. In which case, the breakup of comets, which we've now witnessed repeatedly over the last 20 to 30 years, they will be swept up into the planets, most likely Jupiter, because that's the largest gravitational mass, but Mars, could be Venus. I mean, we see every silicate solid body in the solar system is riddled with craters, thousands and millions of craters.
Yeah.
And of course, the Earth is included in that. But I think the ultimate destiny for majority of comets is that they get swept up into the sun. And so what I'm getting at here is that there's evidence now that would suggest that there is a connection between the infall of these cometary masses into the sun and that there is an unexpectedly large response of the sun itself. So if this proves to be the case, and I was sort of sitting on the fence when I only had one example, and maybe if we could do a share screen at some point here, I can show you one of the examples that was just caught randomly. A comet came in, fell into the sun, and instantly there was a massive coronal outburst. Very impressive to see. So if that's the case, I think what it's leading us toward is a holistic model. And we now know that there seems to be a connection between increased solar activity and climate change, increased solar activity along with seismic responses, volcanic responses. We know that comets are much more complicated than we used to think. Once upon a time, you had a simple iron or stony asteroid on one end of the continuum, and on the other end you had icy comets. Well, now there's a whole series of hybrids between the two. It's not such a simple division anymore. And you may have a comet that within that frozen matrix of the nucleus has a highly heterogeneous mix of stuff. And this is one of the things I think that threw the critics. I mean, I remember one of the papers that came out early, around 2008 to 2010, where they were dismissing the idea of a Younger Dryas impact, is they said, well, it looks the scenario looks like a Frankenstein monster that's been, because you have evidence of things that you would attribute to an iron meteor, to a stony asteroid, to a chondritic asteroid. Well, what we now know is that a cometary nucleus can contain this heterogeneous mix of stuff. And then if you have an encounter between the Earth and not just a single object, my research suggests to me that there was probably at least 10 encounters with the fragments of a comet. Some on land, some in the ocean, some in the ice sheet. And each one of those is going to have a different suite of effects following in the aftermath of that encounter. And of course, this has created a very complex scenario, which if you're just looking at a single object should make a crater somewhere, and we know what that's going to be like and what the consequences are. If you're looking for that simplified model, I think you're going to come up frustrated. So that's kind of where I think it's at now.
Yeah. And do you think that, before the next question to William, this one's still to you, Randall, the inner Oort cloud. So we have the inner Oort cloud and we have the outer Oort cloud. Do you think that the objects in the inner Oort cloud are remnants of planets that collided in the early development stages of the universe, or early development stages of our solar system?
Yeah.
And some of those objects bump and then the gravity yanks them and then all of a sudden they just stream in towards Earth?
I think your thinking is in the right direction for sure. I kind of use the phrase, the stone the builders rejected. Essentially the model is that once the planets accreted around the sun, and wherever they got this angular momentum from that puts everything into these circular orbits, Jupiter essentially flung most of these masses to the outer fringes of the solar system, where they were essentially, as they're moving away from the sun, the sun's gravity field is losing its grip on them because it's moving farther and farther away, and they will keep moving until essentially it's just right at the outer zone of the ability, the field of influence of the sun. In fact, the outer, what you referred to as the outer Oort cloud, is almost halfway to the nearest, some of the nearest stars, like a couple of light years away. So that really, we have to think now in terms of our solar system, we have to think about that much larger model.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I'm sure you're aware of some of the research that would suggest that, some of the precursors of life itself were delivered to Earth via comets. I know, William, you probably even mentioned that. I think I've heard you mention that a time or two. So
yeah, definitely.
So we're ending up with what I think we're approaching a holistic model that, and it's in all of its parameters, it's cosmic. And if we want to understand what's happening here down below in this terrestrial realm that we inhabit, we have to expand our thinking to this much larger framework.
Yeah, absolutely. For real. That was a great answer. Thank you. And to William, kind of pivoting a little bit, your research on Egypt and ancient civilization, the ancient Sumerians, has been like top notch. I love the way your take on these ancient civilizations, not so much nefarious, but a lot of you focus more on the positivity, the positive side of ancient civilizations. What did they mean? What did they come to do? What knowledge and wisdom did they impart on us? How did it affect us in a positive way? And one time I heard you talking about the Merkaba. Do you think that the Merkaba from ancient times was something that people were really able to access through spiritual means, or even maybe potentially even through physical means?
I do, Billy. And the Merkaba, of course, is thought of as the throne chariot, the celestial chariot. When you think of figures like Enoch and his ascension, or you think of Elijah ascending in the heavens in a whirlwind in his chariot of the gods, that's the Merkaba. It's primarily a Jewish term, literally, again, meaning throne chariot, but it has antecedents much before the Jewish tradition emerged. And in my view, it's been the sole preoccupation of humanity ever since really the beginning, to not just leave the planet, but to connect with other star systems, other worlds, other beings. And I think that that's an important part of what perhaps was lost during that Younger Dryas period, is that it seems that there was evidence of a civilization that was more, not galactic, but certainly traveling within our solar system, and also meeting beings from within our solar system, and also from without as well. And it's they who left us that Merkaba tradition. And it's really profound the way it's been revived in our modern era. I mean, maybe since the advent of the UFO era, when we discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, when we found the Nag Hammadi Library in 1945, there are references to this mode of ascension or mode of travel. And to me, it's a great herald for our modern era. And now within the spiritual community around the world, you have a fascination with it, to say the least. Drumvalo, I think, really opened it up in the 90s when he started reviving the Merkaba traditions, the mythology. And now today, you have literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are occupying their spiritual practice with this idea that they can actually duplicate what the ancients were doing in terms of their ascension.
Yeah, it's amazing. This knowledge and wisdom from the ancients, do you feel like it started here on Earth, or do you feel like it came from somewhere else, and then maybe our own selves, or maybe our cousins or someone else from somewhere else came to interact with us to give us this ancient wisdom?
I'm of the view that we had outside influence. I refer to this as the Star Walker tradition. These are beings that have the ability to travel interdimensionally. They can travel from planet to planet. They have the ability to dissolve their physical flesh and blood body into light, and then phase back into physicality at a destination location. And that tradition, you find it in the Egyptian tradition, you find it in the Sumerian tradition, you find it then coming into Judaism and Christianity, and even Islam. So it's an idea that is think of it as a thread that winds its way through all of these various spiritual and religious traditions, and they almost unanimously point to an extraterrestrial source for these teachings. This is what we're starting to talk about now, even in the halls of Congress, when we're speaking of non-human intelligences that have been here for, well, since the beginning. And that when we look at like the Navy videos of the Tic Tac or some of the gimbal videos, that they're actually proposing that these are the non-human intelligences that have occupied this planet and it's really their world we're passing through, and they're ultimately going to be connected with other worlds.
Amazing stuff. I hope you all are paying attention tonight. I got another question for Randall in a second, but I just want to stop and pause because I want to make sure I explain this amazing giveaway that we have going on, this amazing raffle, which is kind of really built into next weekend's event. Okay, so I'm just going to go run over there real quick to that and read it to you. But there's a raffle weekend's event we're giving away. So basically what will happen is the event itself is going to be December 7th through the December 5th through the 7th, I'm sorry, of this month. And now basically what's going to happen is if you get a ticket in person or you get a live stream ticket, which I've been dropping the live stream link in the live chat, and it's also linked in my bio, you'll then automatically be entered into a raffle. And what can you win? Well, someone will be selected to win an amazing prize. It's going to be access to the event in Sedona, May 1st through the 3rd, and also access to the one in Austin. 2 more Ancient Civilizations conferences. The second one is October 16th through the 18th, and that includes raffle prizes and the grand prize giveaways for 2 winners. Okay, so you want to check that out. But how do you enter? Just buy a ticket to the event or buy a ticket to the live stream. Okay, and it's going to be an amazing event. Great giveaways. First prize will be 10 winners, 2 front row seats to both Sedona and Austin. Second prize is going to be 8 winners, 2 front row seats to Sedona event only. Third prize is going to be 4 winners, 2 front row seats to Austin event only. And fourth prize will be 40 winners to the full live stream access. So all you have to do is get a live stream ticket or a ticket to be at the event and meet us in person, and you're automatically entered into this raffle. You could win literally access to 2 major events and sit in the first row. So again, I think that's a great value. I just wanted to bring that up before we continue our talk tonight. And so for you, Randall, I just came back from 4 months ago. I came back from Peru. It was my very first time going to Pumapunku. I had been to Peru before, but I never got into Bolivia. And we had a hell of a time getting into Bolivia this time. It was a lot of security, a lot of military. They're having some issues there with rebels and so forth. So we got stopped a few times on the way up by the military and checked, and we almost got damn near strip searched. It was crazy. But anyway, that was a whole other podcast. We get there, we finally get up to Pumapunku, and I'm just observing the mountain ranges up there, and I'm looking at them, and I'm zooming in with my camera phone, and I see these weird striations coming down the interior side of the mountain, going down toward valley, and I'm looking at them, and it looks like a severe amount of either erosion or some type of moving from glaciers scraping across the mountaintops. Do you have any information from your geological background on what that could possibly be?
I would have to see some photographs, Billy, because oftentimes you might have, from a superficial appearance, you might be looking at something that's structural in the rocks, mountains themselves. I mean, if you've got most of the layers of rocks start out horizontal, then through compression, they're folded up. Most of them. This is orogenesis, mountain building. So now you can have layers that are tilted, right? On the other hand, so then, of course, if you scraped away 1,000 feet of the mountain, you would still be looking at those same layers. On the other hand, it could be just purely on the surface. I would have to see a photograph to really to give you an opinion on what could have caused that. My first impression would be it's probably in the uplifting, in the orogenic process, which is the process of mountain building, because you can picture most, whether it's, if you've got granites, that's an igneous rock, and typically that's going to be a large thick mass without layering in it. Sedimentary rocks have layers, and those layers can be put down in an ocean, which is going to give you limestones or dolomites. It could be on land, like if it's a near-shore environment, it might be a lot of mud and fine-grained stuff that gives you shales and slate, ultimately, if it gets metamorphosed. It could be along a beach, which is going to give you sandstone, or a desert, which is going to give you sandstone. And if you look at sandstones, for example, there's a very distinct difference between sand that was moved and emplaced by wind, say, as contrasted with water. But the point is that most of these sedimentary processes yield horizontal layering, right? Now, those horizontal layering can be subjected to tectonic forces, which can cause, for example, an uplift. Oftentimes this is referred to as an anticline. It can be a downwarp, which is called a syncline, or it can in fact be an overthrust. Like up in the Canadian Rockies, you see some magnificent overthrusts where thousands of feet of rock of a mountain are on top. You can see it's very clearly. It's like it's been pushed up over another section of mountains that's almost horizontal. One of the things, and this is not really the topic of discussion, but usually mountain building is thought to be a very long, slow process. And I think that there are times when mountain building can be extremely fast. And what originally led me to believe that was when I studied erosion on a continental scale and realized that mountain building, if you think about mountain building as a result of continental drift, which is a few centimeters per year, well, then the uplift is going to essentially be very similar in timing to the spreading of the continents, a few centimeters per year. Well, then when you look at erosional rates, that works out to be a few centimeters a year or more. And as the mass of material that forms the mountain is uplifted, the erosional effects on it increase considerably. You'd know that, like the Colorado Plateau is a great example. If you stand on the rim of Grand Canyon on the north rim, you're 7,000 feet above sea level. But there are limestones there. And so those limestones were deposited down at sea level and below. So that whole plateau had to be uplifted. What makes it a plateau different from the Rocky Mountains is that uplifting more or less preserved the horizontal orientation. Whereas if you go a little west, east, and northeast, you're into the Rocky Mountains. Now you've got this, And the thing is, here's the point I'm trying to make, is that as you get higher in elevation, you now have a greater potential for erosion for a number of reasons. For one thing, once you get up within the freeze-thaw cycle, oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, I took that picture myself. Yeah.
Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. Okay. So then here's to make a long story short, the rate of erosion is essentially about roughly equal to the rate of uplift. In fact, even more so. What this tells you is that under normal rates of uplift, the erosion should be cutting it down as fast as it's being uplifted. In fact, I've seen studies that would suggest that on some of the, particularly when you throw an ice age or two in there, it would take 10 to 20 million years to erode most of the mountains of North America down to almost sea level.
Wow.
What that tells you is that somewhere in there, the whole process must be accelerated. And when you start looking at mountains and you see these very sharp, angular, particularly these overthrust mountains, they look very, very young. Here where I live in my backyard, the southern Appalachians have been eroded down significantly. And you can see the products of that erosion on both the east side and the west side of the mountains. They were once as high as the Rocky Mountains and the Andes, long time ago. Now, what you've got here looks very interesting. What this looks like is you had glaciers that melted rapidly and produced subglacial floods that were choked with sediment. The glaciers scraped away and exposed the bedrock underneath, and I cannot tell what this is. It might be basalt. You look down in the okay. Then that would make sense. And then you had very large meltwater floods that were choked with sediment. So you have this thick layer of sediment draped over the rough texture of the basalt. So in other words, you could go in there with a big broom or a giant pressure washer. You could blow all that away, and then you'd have just the rock, the very coarse-grained rock exposed. So what it looks like you've got there, and I've seen stuff like this up in Washington and Idaho and Montana, very similar to this, is you've got what's called the term, here's the geology term, glaciofluvial, which means it's the byproduct of both glaciers and flowing water. That's what it looks like to me. The glaciers come in and scrape everything. They leave a very hummocky, irregular terrain. Then the melting of the glaciers produces very large volumes of meltwater, which is choked with sediment. And you can imagine if you've got a flowing water that's heavily loaded with sediment, when that settles down and settles away, that sediment is just going to drape over the underlying bedrock. That's what looks like happened right here. Now, I have not done any geological studies of this, but now you've got me intrigued, Billy.
Well, this is where Pumapunku is right here. And so Pumapunku is down from this range, and then it's surrounded by this range. And of course, Pumapunku looks like it's been just blown apart. And I was wondering, could it have been water that came rushing in and strewn the blocks, these massive blocks, diorite blocks all over the place? And of course, a lot of them are partially buried in mud.
Well, yes, I think the answer to that would be yes. I can't declare definitively that was the case without doing some studies. I'm sure there are some great geological studies of this area. I have not accessed those, and they're probably in, this is in Peru? No, this is in Bolivia. Bolivia. And they speak, what do they speak in, what do they speak?
They speak so many languages. Quechua is just one of them. They have so many languages. Bolivian, but the Bolivian is more new. They have a lot of ancient languages, a lot of ancient tongues there. The guys that had spoke Quechua, but they didn't have a lot. When I showed them this range and I showed them the erosion, what looks like erosion, glacial melt, and just water running down, I showed them how it can just come right down into Pumapunku and create this havoc that has these blocks potentially strewn over. That's just one theory of potentially many, obviously. Do you have any theories on this, William?
I don't, but on Ancient Aliens, we did a kind of a history-making episode when we took the digital data that's been collected the past few decades on all of the disassembled pieces of Pumapunku. There's, 153 of them or something like that. And we gave them to forensic artists, digital artists, and asked them to reconstruct Pumapunku. And they said that originally, they all agreed it was a rectangular structure. And one of the comments that fascinated me was that when you were inside that structure, they said it would be like looking into, on the both sides of the doors, it would be like looking into a funhouse mirror, like looking into infinity. And I found that fascinating because Pumapunku means the gateway of the Puma, suggesting that perhaps Pumapunku, when it was in its original state, could have been a portal or a gateway of some kind. The Fuente Magna Bowl also comes from Pumapunku, and I find that interesting because at the Ancient Civilizations weekend, I'll be doing a talk on psychedelics and the ancient world. And a lot of people make a big deal out of the Fuente Magna Bowl because it has Sumerian script on it, which is really bizarre. I mean, what is a bowl, a large bowl with Sumerian script doing at Pumapunku? And when they analyzed or deciphered the script, it told of the use of something that sounds very much like ayahuasca. Like there was some fertility work that was being done there, that the women were in charge of this Fuente Magnable, and they were creating this brew that would assist in the fertility of the local women. So I found that really an interesting kind of a tie-in here. And this mystery of Puma Punku, I have not been. I'm so thrilled you were able to get up there, because it truly is one of the most mysterious places in the world.
Yeah, it really, really is. And while I got you on this topic, let's talk a little bit about Tiwanaku. Where we have these faces that are in this wall at the top of this mountain. I forget how high up we were in terms of what's that at 10,500 feet above sea level, somewhere in there. And you've got this wall at Tiwanaku that's got faces of every different type of human race. And then you've got these couple of faces that don't look humanoid at all.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder what were these like gathering places? Were they really actually portals, as they suggest? And it would kind of make sense. You're at a super high elevation and tucked away, and bringing people in from different places around the planet didn't seem to be a problem. And maybe it also wasn't a problem to bring people from outside the planet as well.
Yeah, this is incredible. And there's so much, the more we ask, the more questions we bring up, but it's so intriguing to investigate these things. One of the things I had been wondering as well is for Randall, like we have subduction plates, right? So in the tectonic plates, we have a subduction plate where one goes underneath.
Exactly.
Have you seen any evidence or researched any evidence potentially of any civilization that has gone down with a subduction plate, or does that create a mountain range that forces it up?
Oh, good question. I have not seen any evidence of, if you're talking about like subterranean species or cultures or whatever, other than, myths about people going underground, particularly to, survive a catastrophe of some kind. We know, well-known one is the Hopi myth of the ant people and, the great cosmic firestorms, which are consistent with various types of either solar outbursts or cosmic impact. Now, typically subduction zones, can cause uplifting. I mean, if you look at the Sierra Nevadas, they're immediately to the east of one of the Pacific subduction zone, where the North American plate is overriding the Pacific plate. And then as that Pacific plate plunges down into the mantle, that material melts and it migrates to the surface, and then that creates the volcanism that you find up there, particularly in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
I definitely think, to pick up an idea that William was talking about, the idea that, we keep, like Graham Hancock says, things just keep getting older and older. The modern human species on Earth keeps getting older and older. And each time you push that date back and add more additional generations, I've been reading a history of the colonization of North America, because a lot of the areas that I've explored, I've gone in the footsteps of some of the early great explorers from, Ogden and Jedediah Smith and, what's their names, the famous ones. I'm on drugs right now, actually, I was in the hospital a week ago.
Oh, goodness. Oh, hope you're feeling better, man.
Oh, I am, yeah. But the drugs are making me a little. We won't get into. You're
doing great. You're doing phenomenal. I mean, what you lost, people never had. So, man, you're doing phenomenal.
Yeah. Lewis and Clark. That's what I was trying to say. Lewis and Clark. So you had this period around the early 1800s where all of this first time, civilized humans were exploring the west of Mississippi, and having no idea really where, you start looking at some of the maps of that area, you could realize they had no idea really the extent of the continent or what was there. They're traveling over this area and, mapping it for the first time. And so, I've done so much traveling in the western part of the North American continent that I've inadvertently followed in the footsteps of many of these explorers. And, you know, when I'm looking at one of these magnificent valleys, for example, when I brought Graham Hancock, we made a sort of a pilgrimage, if you will, from Portland to Minneapolis. A lot of the area that we followed was the routes taken by Lewis and Clark. We're going through, let's say, the Missouri Valley, and it's this big, open, magnificent valley, many, many, many times larger than the Missouri River. Now, by this time, I've studied the concept of an underfit river where most of the rivers of the world flow in much larger valleys than the modern river created. But what struck me as I'm looking at some of this is what would have been the impression of the first, say, civilized or educated individual who witnessed this valley? I mean, what did Lewis and Clark think when they traveled through this valley? Or when, like one of the great explorers was named Ogden. Ogden, Utah is named after him. He traveled up along the west flank of the Wasatch Mountains. Well, if you go, the Wasatch Mountains have two very distinct shorelines on them from ancient Lake Bonneville, right? One of them is 1,000 feet above the valley floor. They're very distinct, and if you understand that there was once this gigantic inland sea there temporarily, and you know what that is, you know, you look at it and go, oh my God, way up on the side of the mountain, I'm at the bottom of a lake here, an ancient lake, right? So I wonder, well, did some of these ancient explorers, they would have obviously seen those horizontal ancient fossil shorelines. What was their impression of that, right? Well, now fast forward 100 years to the early 20th century, and you have people like J. Harlan Bretz and a few other small handful of geologists that are now back out in some of these landscapes and going, oh my God, these landscapes were sculpted by these gigantic cataclysmic floods. And nobody wanted to accept that. You know, they were shunned. They were declared crackpots. Of course, then fast forward to like the 60s and 70s, their work was accepted. Yeah, there were these gigantic floods, so big it's almost inconceivable, almost hard to wrap your head around, right? Well, what's happened then, say, since in the last 100 years, if you've had geologists looking at the Ohio River, you had a geologist studying the Hudson River and saying, there was a giant flood that came through here. Study on the Ohio River, say, hey, there was a giant flood that came through here, at least maybe twice, that was 200, 300 feet higher than the modern floodplain. Mississippi River, Missouri River, Colorado River, same thing, right? The scablands of Washington, some of the rivers up in Canada, same thing. Well, here's the problem, is that geology, like archaeology, gets very focused on a specific region, a specific outcrop, right? Without seeing the big picture. Well, what I've been trying to do for the last 30 years is connect the dots and show the big picture. And I think that's kind of where we're at now, is that, what happened in the Hudson River or the Finger Lakes of New York, that was part of the same thing that happened out to create the Channel Scablands in eastern Washington and some of the incredible erosion in the southwestern deserts like Monument Valley and so on. So I think that that's where we're at now, is that we're in this position where really for the first time we, the human species, can now begin to read this massive cipher that's engraved into the landscape of this planet, that's been waiting for 10 or 12,000 years for us to get to the point of our awareness and our knowledge where we've got the eyes to see and the mind to understand that there is actually a script, and the script is about a cosmic catastrophe. And now when you go beyond that, you know, you brought up the Younger Dryas. The Younger Dryas is like the veil that separates the modern reboot of history from this much deeper, more complex history that may go back hundreds of thousands of years. Now, if you consider how far we've come in the last 200 to 300 years, from primarily hunter-gatherers, subsistence farmers, feudalism, and so on, the scientific revolution has launched us into the space age. We look at what's happening now, and you think about, okay, 5, 6 generations. I mean, I'm sure with you the same thing. William, I think about, okay, my grandparents were born in the late 1800s.
Right.
Their parents were born right after the Civil War.
Right.
And their parents, there were no rail. People, these explorers that went out west, they were on foot. They were on horseback, mostly. And they walked 400, 500 miles across deserts. And how far have we come in this little narrow window of time during which our species has been on this planet? This is why I say, if we've lost 150 or 200,000 years, who knows what could have happened?
Yeah.
This is the point.
Yeah. I think about that, Randall. I lived in Nashville for 40 years. And 20 of those years, I studied a site in downtown Nashville. Actually, it's the site that the Tennessee State Capitol sits on. It's an artificially tiered mound, and it's part of a mound builder culture. They were building their mounds in the narrows of the Harpeth and in nearby rivers. And what always fascinated me about it was that in the 70s, Dr. J.J. Hurtak had channeled or written a book called The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch. And he says that Enoch came and took him in one of these Merkabas that Billy was just asking about a moment ago, takes him out to the stars, brings Hurtak back, and he writes this book that's impenetrable as a book you would read. That in fact people read it as study it as revealed scripture. But he had a map in that book of 12 sacred sites that ring the planet, sort of like a pearl necklace of sacred sites. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the center point. Lourdes in southern France. There's one in China, Singapore. Oak Island, Nova Scotia is one site. Vancouver, British Columbia. Then he names 2 sites that will be kind of awakened when humanity goes through some great transition. One is in the Four Corners area, and the other runs from Lexington, Kentucky to Nashville. And so I'm putting all this in my hopper here. And here's the point I'm wanting to make for you to talk about is that at the base of the state capitol is a 2,200 foot long living temple called the Bicentennial Mall State Capitol Park. It's this really kind of wild looking rod or wand that's laid out and growing in front of the Capitol. It's 2,200 feet long, and it's got all this granite, these granite walls that are essentially books that are enfolded within the complex. And in one of the places, it of course talks about the mound builders, that ancient Nashville was considered a necropolis, a place where the Native Americans came to bury their dead. But in one location, it actually says that in 9,000 BC, the human inhabitants of Nashville ate clams and snails from the riverbeds. And I remember reading somewhere that is part of the Younger Dryas scenario too, that there was really no food to eat, and what humans ate were snails along the riverbeds. But here's the point that I'm getting to, is it made me wonder if Hurtak claims that Enoch, this pre-flood figure who lived before the Younger Dryas, returned and took him to the stars, did Enoch know what was going on in Nashville before the Younger Dryas? Has Nashville always been known as this sort of a sacred center? And maybe it's not a question you can answer, but it just struck me, and I always would talk about it when I take people down to this site, that, hey, we're living in a layer cake here. And what we've established here is civilization in Nashville, 9,000 BC. And this, in fact, is why the Nashville Predators hockey team has a saber-toothed tiger as their mascot, because when they were building the Bridgestone Arena in downtown Nashville, where the Predators play, they discovered saber-toothed tiger remains. We just don't think about the land that we walk on in America could be the very same place that an ancient human race once lived upon. It's just something we're totally disconnected from. And I think it's so important that we have that wider timeline.
And I think you're onto something there, William, totally, because when we look at the cataclysms that ended the previous epoch, which geological terms, the Pleistocene, we're now in the Holocene. The Holocene is now dated right at 11,600 years ago, which coincidentally is exactly Plato's date for the subsidence of Atlantis,
Right.
9,000 years before Solon's journey to Egypt. Yeah, this is interesting. Did you just pull this up, Billy?
Yeah. I just pulled it up because William said 9,000 years, and this was discovered in Lake Michigan, dated back about 9,000 years. A mastodon and an underwater Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just kind of threw it up there while you were talking.
Really that fits right into what we're talking about here. If we look in the context of a global catastrophe, I think we can say that there were certain areas that were more severely affected, other areas that were less severely. The yardstick that I use is habitat loss. And how do we know what habitat loss is? Well, habitat loss is directly connected with species loss. So if we look at the loss of species that occurred during the end of the Pleistocene, and the culminating event of the Pleistocene was the Younger Dryas, right? And of course there was an Older Dryas and an Oldest Dryas, and I'm doing a podcast series to help clarify some of that. I've got, I think, the first 2 short episodes out where I'm introducing why it's called the Younger Dryas and the history of its discovery, which actually goes back to the 1800s, and the realization that the flower, the polar wildflower, Dryas octopetala, appeared in northern Europe, disappeared, appeared again. It doesn't like the warmth, it likes the cold. So whenever it appeared, it was also associated with glacial deposits. But we don't need to get into that too much. But in any case, what appears to be the case is that when you look at the species and the total number of species that went extinct during these events, just preceding and leading up to the Younger Dryas, you have roughly half of the megafaunal species on Earth did not survive the Younger Dryas.
Wow.
Roughly half. So that means that the half that did survive is the megafaunal species that inhabits the Earth today. Now, when you look at species loss, it was not uniform around the planet. The most severe species loss appears to be North America. North America lost about 75% of all species whose body weight was over about 100 pounds or 44 kilograms. That's anything over 100 pounds is a megafauna. Then South America was very, very close also, right? Eurasia lost about 35% by comparison, slightly less than half the number of species. Africa lost maybe between 10 and 15%. So that is one reason today why Africa has such a high percentage of megafaunal species, because most of those megafaunal species in Africa were survivors of the Pleistocene, right? North America, we had 4 species of elephants in North America, proboscideans. You know, we had mastodons, we had Columbian mammoths, imperial mammoths, and then your most famous, the woolly mammoths, right? We had giant camels. Beavers that were as big as black bears. We had bears that were, stood 6 feet and higher at the shoulder. Dire wolves. I mean, the list goes on and on. They're gone. You mentioned saber-toothed tigers, William. Actually, saber-toothed cats is correctly. But yeah, the Pleistocene lion, the size of a horse. Now, these were creatures that inhabited North America. They're all gone. Well, my point is that North America, I think, was essentially ground zero. South America, very close second. So it seemed like whatever happened most severely in the Western Hemisphere, not as severe in Eurasia, and the least severity in Africa. What does this mean? Well, this has very interesting implications in terms of racialism, culturalism, and all of this, in that, and particularly this might be something I've been wanting to explore, Billy, for a long time, is that there are traditions, I think, that have been still in the wings that we're unaware of, tribal traditions in Africa that have preserved memories of 10 to 20,000 years ago. I mean, you know about the Dogons and some of their traditions, right? I think that might be the tip of the iceberg. I think Africa has a lot of secrets to yield up yet.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
North
the
America,
Zulu, Ogons,
was,
all of them.
yeah, North America was almost completely depopulated at the end. So when we
Yeah.
talk about even North American Native Americans have traditions. I always like to quote from George Catlin, the artist, the 19th century artist who traveled amongst Native Americans of the Rocky Mountains and in Central America, collecting their traditions along with, and he said, there was a great diversity and I have great quotes by him, great diversity of ritual, ceremony, belief systems, all of this. But he said that the one thing that they all seemed to have in common was that they believed they were descended from the survivors of a great catastrophe that involved both floods and fires. And how consistent would that be with the idea of a cosmic impact? Because we know one of the consequences of cosmic impacts is fires. If it hits a continent, it can create firestorms that are massive, right? So it seems to me, again, there's an untapped reservoir of knowledge. And when we realize that many of the myths and legends that we've inherited behind them are real events, this is not just, superstitious, illiterate, pre-scientific, filled with fear, so they invent these, scenarios to try to explain what they don't understand. I don't buy that at all anymore. I mean, that's like completely an obsolete version.
Yeah.
And now we're beginning, I think, at least some anthropologists, archaeologists, geologists, there's actually a subdiscipline of geology now called geomythology that is recognizing the validity and the veracity of many of these ancient traditions, that they are much, much more scientific, literally, than they had been recognized for. So it looks like we had this Clovis culture that appeared very quickly, 300 to 400 years before the Younger Dryas. And then at the beginning, the beginning of the Younger Dryas disappeared just as quickly. There's over 50 Clovis sites that have been documented around North America, and it looks like virtually all of them were abandoned right there at the Younger Dryas horizon. Well, what probably happened, I think, is that most of them were exterminated, and what you had was such small bands of survivors that they left very little trace. And it took thousands of years to build up a viable population. I think that's one reason why we don't really see the infrastructure of civilization till 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Some of the very first, and I'm sure, William, you know this, that some of the first monumental earthworks in North America were 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Poverty Point, have you visited there yet?
I have not, no.
Add that to your list.
Okay.
Poverty Point is probably was built about the time of the Old Kingdom of Egypt.
Wow.
In fact, it looks like the dating puts it almost right in that same window. Watson Brake even earlier, 5,000 to 5,500 years, and it's an elegant elliptical geometry and 11 mounds that form. They're very eroded, but in their pristine condition, they would have been a very impressive set of earthwork structures. But if you consider the level of, and you'd follow up on this, Billy, and we can, I have some information I'd love to share with you, because in my travels, I've visited most of the extant earthwork sites in North America. And of course, what exists now is only a small percentage of what was here before the arrival of the Europeans. And once you begin to realize the extent of these monumental earthworks, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I mean, would have been every much on the same scale as any other culture you could come up with.
Right.
But then it gets even more wondrous than that, because once you begin to understand the astronomy of these sites, you understand the engineering capability, you understand the geology, the sacred geometry, you're looking at a consistent system. And even though these mounds don't necessarily look like an Egyptian temple or what you might find at Pumapunku, I think they were all working from the same template.
Yeah.
Now, the
Yeah,
question
sure.
then becomes, what's the source of that template?
Right.
Mhm.
Hey,
Yeah,
Randall,
it's like one master architect. Go ahead, William.
no, I was just going to mention, I wonder if you'd comment on an experience I had a couple of weeks ago. I went up to Roden Crater near Flagstaff, Arizona. An artist named James Turrell, who is he's a MacArthur Fellow. He's considered to be the Michelangelo of our time. He bought Roden Crater in the 1970s, and Turrell is known for working with light. He creates these light spaces. Every modern art museum in the world has a Turrell exhibit. He's building a huge one in Saudi Arabia right now. And he's transforming this crater into an observatory, an astronomical observatory. It was so profound. I mean, Kanye West spent $20 million to get on the property. Drake spent another $20 million to get there. It's the complete Willy Wonka ticket right now because Turrell hasn't finished the whole complex. But when I was there, I just really felt the ancientness of being inside this volcano that this artist is transforming into an observatory. And thinking about, wow, I mean, he's so into the ancient mind as well. And it just kind of made me think that is like James Turrell, like a carryover from that civilization? Did he have that same kind of consciousness or mind that understood he could take a dormant volcano and turn it into an observatory and align it with Arcturus or other star systems and bring in the light from that star system? It was truly profound.
I'm not familiar with that, but sounds like something I need to check out. What he's doing there. Do you think he's working in some degree? It sounds like to the ancient system.
Yes, without a doubt.
Okay,
without a doubt.
And I will mention this too, that I think that again I mentioned it looks like they're working from the same template, and one of the things, of course, about Pumapunku, Billy, is you have stones there, 10 up to 100 tons. That have been moved.
Yeah.
Well, you find those all over. You find them in Egypt. You find them in northwestern Europe. You find them on Malta. You find them in Lebanon, etc. The point I've really taken issue with modern archaeologists, because I've seen some comments. It's just dismissive of, they had whatever. I mean, none of their explanations add up and makes sense, because I made a point online about a year or so ago, because I've been a builder. I don't deal in big commercial enterprises or industrial, but I have from time to time the necessity to move maybe steel I-beams that weigh a ton. And I know what's involved, that we want a steel I-beam, that we need a couple of steel I-beams on a project. They're brought out by a truck with a boom, and nothing's done manually. Now, we've put in steel I-beams that weigh half a ton to a ton manually. I know how to do that. But when I think about the amount of work that's involved, we'll have a whole crew there spending a full day setting a half ton or ton I-beam in place, right? Yeah. And we have different ways. We use jacks and come-alongs and levers, and we can, move things up. But then I think, okay, now, if I was a hunter-gatherer, what? Wait a minute. Come on, guys. There is a serious disconnect here. After a day of hunting and gathering, I am probably not going to be wanting to move 10 and 20 and 30 ton stones.
Right.
Yet, okay, you could argue, okay, here's some idiosyncratic culture that, because they were so weird and eccentric, they're obsessed with moving big stones. Okay, well, maybe so, right? But when you see it over and over and over again, it just doesn't make sense around the whole planet. I made the point in this comment that, we build with stones today, but generally the stones that you see, we've gone from, essentially, if you look at stonework in the 19th century, it was mostly what could be handled by, animal labor, or it was essentially scaled down to where you have a stone the size that a strong man could handle it. So you're looking at 50 to 100 pounds, right? Now it's scaled down even further where we're not building with solid stone anymore. We're just using veneer stone, right? So, I mean, somewhere, somebody way back thousands of years ago was moving with impunity multi-ton stones to build with. And then we see the economics dictate that, until the advent of modern technology, we've been reducing the size because it's more economical to do a stone veneer than it is to build with 50-pound stones. Far more economical than to try to build with, half-ton stones. So just from that standpoint alone, it makes no sense at all to me.
Yeah.
Unless, and you know where I'm going with this, unless they had access to a forgotten technology.
Of course. Yeah.
Which to me, to claim that these people were just doing this in their spare time, well, we caught enough fish for today, so now we can go and move this 20-ton stone, right? That they had, to me, that is really more absurd than the idea that they may have had a technology. And I think we're on the verge of recovering that technology. I really do. I think there are some of the things I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years have led me to believe that I think there's a whole new way of manipulating. I don't usually like to use the word manipulating, but influencing, utilizing energy. And it involves plasma, the level energy, the fourth state of matter. And that's something that I think is an important conversation to start having. Because, in fact, there have been a series of inventors and scientists that I think have come upon that conclusion since the days of Tesla, and their work has been mostly suppressed for various reasons.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think we're on the verge now of, and it's going to be people like us, essentially, who put the word out, because mainstream media is not going to touch it. In industry that's fully invested in the current systems, they don't want to deal with it because it's going to render the whole system of energy utilization that now powers our civilization obsolete. But in a way, I think that's not going to, it's like when we transitioned from horse-drawn carriage to cars, the people whose jobs it was to go around the streets and clean up the horse dung, they were out of work. They had to find something else to do, and that's the natural evolution of an advancing society. But there's so many interesting facets to this stuff that we're talking about here.
For sure.
And I look to try to wrap up my work in a very succinct sentence is that we have to understand that for whatever the ultimate cause, there have been these tremendous catastrophes that happen from time to time. The Younger Dryas was only the most recent global catastrophe. And as species have gone extinct, I think we can extrapolate from that model and speculate that cultures, civilizations have gone extinct. And each round, we get a new opportunity to create something that could be resilient enough or adaptive enough that we can maybe even mitigate the potential of catastrophes, if not survive them altogether, with some kind of continuity of civilization. And that's kind of where my thinking is going now. I'm not necessarily a doomsayer like, we're doomed in the next, 5 years or in 2032 or whatever like that, because we don't know. But because we don't know, it means that we don't really have the luxury of sitting on our asses. We need to come together, and I think that's happening. William, what you're doing, Billy, what you're doing, what Graham is doing, what a lot of these people that are going to be in at the conference coming up are doing. Like 10 years ago, I didn't know you, William. I didn't know your work at all. Now I'm very familiar with your work, what you're doing. I say, okay, here's another critical piece of the puzzle that William is bringing in. Billy, I didn't know about you until 3 years ago. I wasn't familiar with your work. Now that I'm becoming familiar with your work and what you're doing, same thing. And we've got this tremendous opportunity right now, I think, to really create a global network of free thinkers who are willing to look at the big picture, who are willing to transcend the petty bullshit that divides us, and realize we're all in this together here. And we have an opportunity here. And let's pull it off this time.
Yeah.
Let's succeed.
Absolutely. We can and we will. Because I've read a lot of text. I've studied a lot of information from all around the world. And I have not found any text that says that we have to keep going through the cycle of rise and fall.
Yeah.
Outside of, geological disasters, the other rise and fall has been because of humanity against humanity. We fall for these divide and conquer tactics all the time. And we battle each other while the small group runs everything and have us running amok. And you can go back to the Epic of Gilgamesh and just see that right in there. Well, Enlil's watching the people clamoring about, making noise, arguing, fussing, fighting, and doing all these things. And he's telling them, just call some of these humans, call them up, dry out their crops and let them starve to death. It's just, so this has been going on for quite some time. And we have to understand that we're at the technological point now, as you were just saying, Randall, where we're creating some revolutionary technology, some of which has been suppressed from the general public, but that we can now potentially control our own geological destiny. Can we shift the orbit of magnificent, gigantic comets and asteroids? Can we avert, geological catastrophes? And if we can do that, plus get our act together on the planet's surface as to loving one another and treating each other with respect and dignity and coming together instead of staying separated, there's no way that I've read that we have to collapse again. We can potentially get to a golden age and sustain an actual golden age.
100%. And all of us come from different strands. I mean, my primary, my dad is 100% Scandinavian, so I've got that half. My mother is a mix of all kinds of things. She's got French, she's got Native American, she's got Black Dutch, which means I've got a very little, for a long time, the Black Dutch were said, no, we're not connected with Africans, right? Back in, 100 years. Well, it's probably almost certain now that when the Dutch were involved in the slave trade, that there was an intermingling of Europeans and Africans, right? And so most of us have this type of mix, really. And in my mind, it's like we all bring different skills and sets and insights to the table. Yeah. And to exclude anyone or to lessen the contribution of any group or race or culture, to me, is counterproductive. Because I think the way it is we've all got something unique to bring to the table, and every single piece is going to turn out to be critically important and vital to what you're talking about, Billy.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% wholeheartedly. And I know, William, that's been one of your biggest messages, is coming together and achieving this ascended Christ consciousness.
I mean, that's right. We're so it's on the cusp right now of a dramatic leap in our consciousness, whether we choose to do it organically or we're incorporating AI, which more and more looks likely. We have a tremendous opportunity right now for the birth of a different version of humanity. And that's what's tremendously exciting, is to be here for that conception and the ultimate birth.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone in the live chat, we got 1,700 people total across all platforms live with us right now. Just been hanging in there. We've gotten as high as 2,000. We appreciate y'all. Thank you for hanging out with us. This has been an amazing evening. Thank you, Randall, Carlson, and William Henry. Two bright, amazing minds. Thank you so much. I know y'all are very busy, and to come on here and to share with the, I call them leaders. I don't have followers. I have leaders. To share with my leaders all your knowledge. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Well, thanks for the invite.
Everybody this weekend.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry I'm not going to be there with you guys this weekend.
Okay. Right.
I'm in the middle of this thing that I got to deal with here.
Okay. That's understandable.
Something that's been hanging over me for about a year or two now, and I've finally got to deal with it. And then I'm going to be It's going to be like Randall's rebirth.
All right.
All right.
We'll be
Beautiful.
praying for you, Randall.
I love
Appreciate
it, man.
it.
I'm
Well-
praying for you, brother. I'm commanding your health and I'm commanding your well-being.
Well, thank
Right.
you. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the normal process of having lived on this planet now for 7.5 decades.
Yeah.
If I could go back to the younger Randall, I'd say, hey, ease up a bit, dude.
We all could do that. I wouldn't play as much basketball on concrete.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
My knees are gone. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I'll see y'all
Thank
this
you,
weekend
Billy.
in just a few more days. All right.
Yeah.
Right on.
And since I
See
won't
you.
be seeing you guys, I look forward to staying in touch with you. And I'm sure that
Yes.
Thank you, Randall.
there'll be other events that
yeah.
we're going to be crossing paths.
For sure. No doubt. No doubt.
All right.
Looking forward to having you on my podcast again, too, both of y'all.
Oh, I'd love to.
All right, thank
Love
you,
to
Bill.
join
Thank
you again. Yeah.
Anytime.
Thank you. All right.
Good night,
Catch y'all
everybody.
later. All right.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right. That was great. That was amazing, everyone. Just hang tight.
Cool.
We got we had Randall, Carlson, and William Henry in the house. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I got something else I want to share with you tonight. I almost forgot to do this. I was given something that I can give away. So let me pull this up right now. I want to make sure I don't forget to do this. Let me get this up here right now. I'm going to give away, let's see here. Giving away 2 tickets tonight to the live stream. We're going to give away 2 tickets. Okay, you can give away 2 tickets to Scottsdale tonight, as well as, okay, so we're going to, okay, that's beautiful. We got 2 tickets to Scottsdale tonight. All right, Robert from World Views. By the way, this podcast is sponsored by World Views. That's WORLDVIEWZ, worldviews.com. Shout out to Robert. He's a great event coordinator, one of the greater minds in event coordination within the conscious community and the ancient civilizations community. He brings together the biggest and brightest minds into these conferences, and he has them consistently. And let me tell you something, as a person that's run events, it's not easy coordinating so many people and getting them into one place at the same time, and even just getting the people to show up at the venue, and then you've already spent all your money on everything. It's just really incredible. So if we can support Robert, we can support World Views. That would be amazing if you can make it. So now I'm going to look for 2 people in the live chat. And I actually have 2 picked out already. Okay, I have 2 people picked out in the live chat. I'm just scrolling back up because I missed them earlier, and I want to give them a special shout out. So the first winner is going to be Word of McGuff guy. Okay, Word of McGuff guy, got it. You know, you asked about a tidal wave hitting the western coast and wash over the Andes, creating Lake Titicaca. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to bring your question up on the screen, but I want to thank you. I'm just going to call you Word. Thanks, Word, for the donation. And also, Word, you are one of the winners of the tickets to the Scottsdale event. Okay. So, Word, you can email Cortez, Cortez, at forbiddenknowledge.com. That's Cortez at forbiddenknowledge.com. And send your YouTube link, your YouTube URL as well, so that we know exactly who you are. All right. And Cortez will get you situated so that we can make sure you get your event pass for the Scottsdale, Arizona Quest for Ancient Civilizations. All right. So thank you. I appreciate your word. And there was another person in here as well. I'm just scrolling back up again. And okay, that was Word again. All right, where are we at here? Okay, there we go. Shay Jackson. So Shay Jackson, thank you so much. I appreciate you. All the support, you know, all the energy, effort you put into being everywhere, showing up everywhere. I appreciate you. So Shay Jackson, again, email Cortez, Cortez, at the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.com, and get all your information as well as your YouTube link so we can verify that it's you. And we'll get it all coordinated. You're the second winner for the free pass to the Quest for Ancient Civilizations Conference. So everyone give them a round of applause. Give them a congratulations. Thank y'all for hanging out. I do have one more thing I want to share with you tonight. I'm going to pull it up on the screen right now. As y'all know, I've been really doing a lot of projects in my mentoring program, and the Forbidden Knowledge Academy has been doing absolutely amazing. Today, we went over 1,400 incredible leaders in the Forbidden Knowledge Academy. And I do have the 4BK Wealth Ascension Blueprint as well. This isn't for everyone, but I'm going to explain it to you now. There are some people on here that they might be interested in this. It's a 12-week journey with me, where we go on a 12-week journey together. And a team of my millionaire mentors and myself really teach you about the wealth frequency, activation, manifestation, and really how to live the life that you were born to live. A lot of people tend to think, well, I'm spiritual and I don't really care about money. But if you're into ancient civilizations, coming from a person like myself who has been unsponsored, I have literally spent well over $1.8 million traveling to these ancient sites for 30 years, unsponsored. I could not do that unless I developed a certain level of financial literacy for myself and some type of entrepreneurship idea, concepts, minds that actually create results. And some people are trying to create the results so they can live the life of their dreams. They would love to go and, hike down inside of a volcano. I've been in volcanic tubes. They would like to go underneath the pyramids, 300 yards. I've done that. They would like to go visit ancient temples in the jungles of Cambodia. I've done that. But all that takes, unfortunately, it takes money. But it takes not just money, it takes an understanding of the frequency that you get on, because you're not chasing the money. Money is completely irrelevant. We're teaching you how to get on the vibration and frequency of living within your passion. So I'm looking for only 20 people who are ready to take their mindset, their wealth, and their energy to the next level. And inside the 4BK Ascension Blueprint, I'm going to work closely with you to reprogram your mind, activate the wealth frequency, and build a different financial reality for yourself. This is a premium mentorship. In other words, you're dealing with me. I just had my meeting with the last 4BK group just yesterday. They were amazed. There were people coming out of some of our sessions actually crying, not tears of anger or fear, tears of actual joy is what they were experiencing. And we did a phenomenal guided quantum meditation, by the way. But, being in this means you're going to be committed to doing the inner work and the outer work. That's a big part of what I teach. You're going to show up on time. You got to be coachable. If you're not coachable, it's not for you. You need to be in a focused space when you join up for your call, because I'm going to give you a link. I'm going to drop a link for you in the live chat so you can schedule a call. You got to be prepared to increase your frequency, your vibration, but it's also going to take an investment. You got to be committed to making a 4-figure investment in yourself. And if you meet these criteria and you're ready to move now, you can apply for a call with my coaching team, and we'll see if it's a right fit for you. If you book a call, you have to commit to showing up. We dedicate time, energy, and resources from our team to support you. So that means that these people and my team and myself are giving you our energy. So we just ask only one thing, that you actually show up to talk to us. I mean, it's not that much. So I'll drop the link in the live chat right now. If you're on IG or another platform, you could just click the link in my bio for the 4BK Blueprint Ascension program, okay? And it's a great call. It'll be a great call, great energy. Again, we're just looking to see if it's a right fit for you. It's not for everyone. Some people are just not fit for the program based on if they're coachable, their frequency, their vibration. Are they able to take good information from me and utilize it, actually act on it? Or are they just looking to hang out and have a conversation? I just dropped the link in the live chat. If you're a person that really wants to seek change within your life, really wants to get to the next level, I'm a person that has built several 8-figure businesses, documented. One of my very first companies was acquired first, and then in that acquisition was sold for millions of dollars. My original corporation funded the Amber Alert system, the Amber Alert company. That was my very first startup, .com marketing group. It's the very first startup that I did at a high level. But there were many after that. And now I'm the founder of Forbidden Knowledge. Forbidden Knowledge has now just developed a suite of apps, which has significantly increased our post-money valuation. So I understand how to move in these realms and still stay connected to my passions. So it's important to understand the balance between literacy, financial literacy, you're living in your passion, managing your time, managing your frequency, understanding the quantum field, all of this combined into one so that you can literally live the best life of your dreams. Every day when I wake up, I don't even feel like I'm going to work. I feel like I'm just living an absolute dream. Does that mean that bad things never happen to me? Hell no. Stuff happens to me just like it happens to you. Do I get angry and frustrated sometimes? Hell yes. Yes, I do. But over time, I'm able to catch myself, reel myself back in, and get back on track. I don't let things collapse me for too long because I realize that I'm not my thoughts. I'm the observer of my thoughts. And no matter what happens to you in your life, there are so many positive things that outweigh the negative things. It's all about your perspective. If you really sat back and said, I'm going to spend the next 5 days writing down how many incredible positive things, really dig deep that happened to me in my life versus the negative things, you'll probably find out more positivity has happened to you than negative. Now, some of the negative things can be massive. I mean, I lost both of my parents. Both of my parents have passed away. There are things that are negative that are big, but on the grand scheme of things, just like a geological time clock, right, in the universe, a lot of the times there are so far more positive things. I'm going to say one more thing and I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to give you a parable. And some of you have heard this parable from me before, but I think it's so important and so poignant, I'm going to give it to you again. There were two men. These two men were driving in cars. They were headed towards a red light. One man was in a Toyota Corolla. The other man was in a Lamborghini. The man in the Toyota Corolla looked out of the window and he said, man, I wish I can get this Lamborghini. I'm stuck in this Toyota Corolla. I love that car. Looking at that car with envy, like, man, I can't believe this guy's got the car of my dreams. Light turns green, they drive away. The Lamborghini turns left, the Toyota Corolla keeps going straight down the road. As he's driving, he passes by a man on a bike, a 10-speed bicycle, riding in the opposite direction. The man on the 10-speed bicycle sees the Corolla coming and he says, oh my God, I wish I had that car. That's the car that I want. If I had that car, I wouldn't have to ride a bike to work. And the car passes him up. The man keeps riding his bike in the opposite direction. As he's riding his bike, he rides right by a man with a backpack on walking to work. The man with the backpack looks at the man coming at him and goes, look at that 10-speed bike. I wish I had that bike. I wouldn't have to walk to work. And as the man keeps walking, there's a man sitting on a porch in a wheelchair, watching the man walk to work. And he says, I wish I could walk. You see, there's always someone that might have it a little worse than you. So when you take a full account of who you are, where you are, and the things that you've been through, you might begin to realize you haven't shown a lot of gratitude for the things that you do have. It's always nice to want to do better and be better, but you can't effectively get there unless you find the gratitude in your heart for the things that you've already been blessed with. You see? And this is a very simple metaphor, and some of you might have heard it before. But for me, when I start getting a little bit too on the edge and too a little bit in the gray area with what I'm wanting to do, I remember that parable. And I sit back and I take 10 deep breaths And I display and show and feel complete and utter gratitude for the moment that I'm in now and for the blessings that I have received up until that point and the ones that I'm continuing to receive. It's so important that we express gratitude and stop focusing on the negativity. The negativity will destroy you. Our minds are designed and triggered to hyper focus on anything negative. You can make a post on social media, it'll get 1,000 likes, and it'll get probably 5 to 10 negative comments out of maybe 100, depending on the size of your account. Obviously, everything is in a ratio. Your eyeballs and your emotions will be drawn straight to the negativity instantly. You'll see them before you see the positive comments. Why? Because our body and our brain, our hindbrain, is designed to put the body in fight or flight and protection mode at all times. And even though we're not living in a civilization anymore, we're hunter-gatherers, we still have that mechanism inside of us. And the mechanism can't tell it's the 21st century. It doesn't even care about the 21st century. All it knows is it saw something negative, and that means danger. So we hyper-focus on that information. We hyper-focus on any little negativity that comes our way, and we never smell the roses and all the blessings that have already happened along the way, even sometimes within the same 24 hours. We'll sit there and talk about that one negative thing and gossip about it and brag about it or call somebody about it and talk about it to 10, 15 different people who really don't even care, just because it was that one negative thing that popped up for the day. We have to learn how to reel ourselves back in, get back into the mode and the emotion of gratitude right here in the heart chakra and feel that emotion. Bake in that emotion. And when you get back into the emotion of gratitude, and simply by thinking of the things that you have, that you are blessed with, and all the blessings you've been able to have, and if you don't have that many, if you feel like you don't have that many blessings, if you can think, you're blessed. Because some people can't even think. I watched one of my aunts whittle away, completely brainless, brain dead, gone. I watched my father die in the hospital, completely brain dead. After cops beat him and gave him a double concussion, broke his back, he ended up so ill he went back to the hospital, and they just finished him right on off. He had a cascade seizure, which erased his brain. He got to the point where he literally could not think. Some people can't even make a thought, and you can, because you're watching me right now. So you can't even say, well, I got nothing to be blessed. I have no blessings. If you can think, you're blessed. Okay? You're blessed. So again, I'm dropping a link in the live chat. I'd love to be your mentor. It's the 4BK Ascension Blueprint Program. It's a unique mentoring 12-week, fully immersive program. If you meet the qualifications, register for a free consultation. And I look forward to talking to you, seeing if we have a great fit. All right. Thank y'all for hanging out tonight. I'll see you at the Ancient Civilizations Conference. It's going to be the Quest for Ancient Civilizations, the 5th through the 7th, coming up this December. That's next weekend in Scottsdale, Arizona. I've got books there. You can come. I'll sign the books for you. We'll take pictures. All right. We'll break bread, shake hands, give hugs, the whole works. I'll be speaking. I'll be on 2 panels. It's going to be a great weekend. And if you can't make it there, I have been dropping the live link. And the live link is also in the caption of this video. And the link is also in my bio. So you can actually join the live stream. If you can't make it out there, you can join the live stream. And don't forget, when you buy a ticket or join the live stream ticket, you're automatically entered into the raffle to win a future ticket to the next event. And I believe the next event is only people who've been on Joe Rogan. Myself, Randall, Carlson, the whole staff, Graham Hancock, all these people have been on Joe Rogan, including myself. So it'll be a conference of people only who have been on Joe Rogan. And so you might win the ticket to go to that one just by buying a ticket to watch this one. All right. Anyway, thank you. We had at the highest point about 2,000 people in the live chat. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And I'll see y'all later. Peace. Peace in the Middle East.